Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Today we are going to be working on a batch of small spoons as requested by the shop that I sell at in person. We sold out, we got to make more. I'm going to show you my process for actually getting a few of these cranked out at a time. I like to use a combination of hand carving tools, sanders, and the bandsaw to really actually do this in a reasonable amount of time. You're going to see that I could take a lot of these a lot farther than I do with the carving tools, but it's for the purpose of batching them out, getting them done quickly, rather than being a purist and trying to do everything with the carving tools. Taking some time to strop my bent gouge here and really make sure that it's going to fly through the wood. Definitely worth investing the time now to save it later. This is a tool pouch for other carving tools that has these nice curved pockets that are good for doing the other side of the gouge. Just taking that burr off that you form when you hit it with the strop. Gonna start out with some 1-inch American black cherry. It's a really good wood for carving and for kitchen utensils. This is the same starting dimensions that I use on things like spatulas you may have seen in a different video. So I have a lot of boards like this hanging around. They're about 3.5 inches wide and really good for all sorts of kitchen utensils. I'm taking a template that I like to use just to keep all my medium spoons about the same, and I'm just marking as many of these out as I can fit, playing the grain so that I think it'll look neat. By hand, I'm going to draw the edge of the spoon bowl. It doesn't have to be perfect because carving is not perfect. I mean, you can be a perfectionist, but it's going to take you a long, long time to get perfect. This bent gouge is not meant to be hit with a mallet or anything like that. You just rock it and it planes into the wood real nicely as long as it's sharp. This particular one, in hindsight, after ordering it, I realized it's meant for softer woods. It does work nicely on cherry, but it's got a little bit tougher of a time getting through some other harder woods. Just taking my time and hitting the peaks that get left behind by the gouge and slowly but surely working this down and deeper. I can see that I didn't quite take the burr off after sharpening this in one spot because it's leaving little streaks. I'm going to have to clean that up in a minute before doing my next bowl. Slowing down a bit now, trying to plane more with the tool and really establish that final shape. Taking some time to make sure it's deepest in the middle and symmetrical overall. Now that I'm warmed up, this next bowl went a lot faster, and I went and sharpened the tool a little better so that it was not leaving those streaks quite as much anymore. So we know we're going to sand these to get them smooth, so we don't have to be perfect with the hand tools here as we're carving. But the more we can do now and the less that we need to do with the sandpaper, the faster this process is going to be. So you'll kind of figure out after doing a batch of these where to stop with the bent gouge and where to pick it up with the sandpaper. I start with 120, and you'll see pretty quickly a lot of these high spots are going to get smoothed right out. You can go as fussy as you want with this step. 120 and 180 are good grits to really get it as smooth as you want, get all the high spots out. But I like to leave a little bit of that hand-carved look because 1, it saves me time, and 2, it kind of looks neat. It really tells the customer that this is a hand-carved spoon. This tool here is called a curved scraper. They come in different sizes, and Depending on the size of the spoon bowl and the shape, the contour and all that, these can be really, really effective at quickly taking down all the high spots and kind of acting as your first grit sandpaper. Over at the bandsaw, we are just slicing and dicing, making these into separate spoons. I actually did 2 more off camera from another piece of scrap wood, so you'll see me cut those up and add them to the batch. I have a ripping blade on here. It's pretty thin for a ripping blade, but it's not a scrolling blade, so I am not hesitating to take small bites and to kind of cheat my way through the turns by nibbling. If you feel comfortable, you can put this piece on edge and save yourself time and kind of contour the spoon bowl. But if you don't do things in the right order and you don't trace your template square to the piece, then that kind of gets difficult to do because you don't have a flat edge to ride the bandsaw table. This is my favorite part of the process, using this vise and my spoke shave. I absolutely love using the spoke shave. It just eats material and naturally evens things out to a nice round shape. You could take the handles all of the way with the spoke shave probably, maybe even go to a curved scraper after and never need sandpaper, but in the interest of time, I just kind of hog a bunch of material off with this thing. This is real time, by the way. And then I bring it over to the sander after to finish things off. The longer the handle is, the easier it is to really get more out of the spoke shave. With a piece this short, it's difficult to get that neck part, so you'll see I actually switched to my carving knife for that. But for the handle part, man, the spoke shave is a dream. And again, this first spoon I'm doing in real time, not sped up at all, just to show you how fast this thing can eat material. Sometimes you're pushing and sometimes you're pulling with the spoke shave. You kind of let the grain of the handle let you know which one is going to work better. You can do the back of the spoon bowl the same way. It might be worth doing it first while the handle is still square, that way the vise will hold it even better. This Pattern Maker's vise from Grizzly is actually really good at holding weird shaped things, but it does have its limits, and I am cranking on it with a spoke shave. So take it as far as you can, and then do whatever you think is going to be fastest. In my case, I kind of have been trying to learn when to switch to my carving knife or the sander. But basically the neck of these, because they're so short, it's hard to do it with the spoke shave, so I basically just switch to the carving knife and try to get some nice sweeps at the part where the bowl meets the handle. I use these rocking little push cuts, just levering off of my thumb, using my other thumb to guide. The goal here is really just to remove material, save us time with the sander. Doing this whole sweep or the whole handle with the sander can take a long time, so we're just saving time right now. At this point, I like to go over to my oscillating edge belt sander and put a lower grit on there. This is an 80 grit belt that I'm cleaning up with an abrasive stick right now. And we're gonna go ahead and even out the handle, and more than anything, finish off that sweep from where the bowl starts right into the handle. You're gonna make this look less like an ice cream scoop and more like a serving spoon. At this point, I really like to just kind of put a finger or two in the bowl of the spoon and then rock it back and forth on the belt. That makes it shave down and get like this nice point on it in a really symmetrical way. So that's about as far as I like to take it off the first grit on the oscillating edge belt sander. I have another one here that I haven't sanded at all that I'm just gonna plop as a side by side so you can see how much material I'm really trying to take off. Alright, all the spoons have gone to the oscillating sander at 80 grit. And now we're going to use the hand power sander at 120. Depending on the sander you have, you might not want to do this. You might want to just like pop a different belt on the stationary sander, or even go to hand sanding at this point. But this Fez tool is really ergonomic and takes material off really quick, so it's pretty efficient for this step. This Fez tool actually has a soft pad that the sanding disc gets mounted to, so it kind of contours to curves just the littlest bit. It's really good for kitchen utensils like this. And I'm actually very much in love with that thing, so I think I'm gonna do a review on it soon. Keep an eye out for that. Alright, from here we can go to hand sanding pretty much entirely, if you want to. That's what I'm going to do. So this is 180 grit, and this is a sanding tool thing that I got from Amazon years and years ago. I can drop a link to that if anybody's interested. And it holds your sanding discs really, really well, so helpful tool. 180 is kind of the last grit that you want to think about shaping with, in my opinion, so I'm using this to get out all those little imperfections right now. I'm making sure the symmetry on the spoon bowl is as good as I want to spend time making it, and I'm using it to make sure these handles are nice and smooth and there's no high spots. So if you remember from earlier, the last grit that I did the spoon bowl itself with was 120, so it's time to step this up to 180. I like using a sanding disc folded in half for this. It's a good stiffness, I think, on the sandpaper to really contour to the bowl. And I'm just working soft circles, trying to be patient, trying to clear the sanding dust out of there as I go, and just get it nice and smooth. Alright, I don't want to bore you to death with the sanding, so I'll tell you off camera, I brought these up to 220, doing the same things that I've showed you so far. You can go up to 400 if you want, but 220 I think is enough if you do it well. Now I'm going to take some water and I'm going to raise the grain on all of these. If you don't do this the first time you wash these, they'll become very, very fuzzy. But if you take the time to do this step after you wash them, they will be perfectly smooth like they were before you washed them. So that's why I do this. So we're just going to let those dry, and then as soon as they're dry, we are going to hit them with 220 again. Nothing too complicated about it. You really just want to make sure that you make good contact with the surface area. You're not really removing material or attacking high spots at this point. You're just getting good contact on everything, knocking down all those wood fibers you just raised with the water. I've got some wax paper down on the bench, and now I'm getting ready to hit these with a mix of linseed oil and beeswax. I've heated this up a little bit so that it's nice and runny and will penetrate deeper into the piece. This stuff is really simple to use. You just want to get it on there in excess, give it time to soak in, remove the excess, and let it sit. And then if you want, you can put another coat on after 24 hours. Or one is probably enough for most applications. For you guys that have been watching and been supporting the channel for a long time, you might know that in the past I've recommended mineral oil. Well, that still might be the way to go for the end user of an item like this, just because it's super easy to apply. It really just washes out of the piece really, really fast. So for somebody that's actually going to cook with these things, you want to tell them to use a polymerizing oil when they recondition. Something that hardens up in the piece over time, like linseed or walnut or tung oil. And then food grade waxes can really help space out the reconditionings that you're going to need to do. These spoons are just chilling out, drinking all the finish I just gave them. After about half hour to an hour, I will buff these clean. And then after 24 hours, this is what they look like. From here, if you want, since they do have a wax on them, you can buff them with a clean cloth or brown paper. And they will get shinier. You can do another coat if you want, but they look really nice after one. Thank you guys for joining me. I hope you liked this video. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you have any questions, throw them my way too. Until next time, peace.